Have you ever clicked on a video that was like, hello everybody, today we're going to be learning how to make an extremely simple Minecraft farm. So let's look in the chest. We just need 3 stacks of netherite, about 1,000 beacons, and about 4,000 obsidian. Pretty easy stuff. Also, make sure you wrote down your coordinates from 15 minutes ago. We will need to plug it into the Pythagorean theorem later on.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the
Yeah, me too. Albert Einstein, Il Mango, Ian Exo4. There are some truly great minds that have come into being throughout the history of humanity. I am not one of them. You see, what I am is I am you. Chances are, you're also not a gigantic brain redstone designer who can make a farm from scratch without even thinking about it. Despite my lack of technical know-how, I still have built and tested all of these on my world, so let's get into ranking them. This is a opinionated tier list, so if you feel strongly about any rankings, just let me know in the comments, and while you're there, it'd be great if you'd like or subscribe. I'm just starting here, could use all the help I can get. There will be timestamps in the description for each farm on the tier list. Also, I will be ranking each farm on a scale of 1 to 5 in both ease of building as well as material cost, and then a scale of 10 in terms of resource output, based off of how useful the resource is and how much of it produces. I'm going to start off with a bit of a hot take. Cobble farm is overrated. Cobble's pretty useful. It's used in a lot of crafting recipes. It's pretty easy to farm, and the farm itself isn't too hard to make. I don't think it's all that though. I think it's B tier. Because yeah, well, you can get a lot of blocks, and having a lot of blocks is nice. It's like, it's not 2014 anymore. What are you building with a ton of cobblestone? It's really just there for crafting recipes these days, and yeah, it's still a good purpose, but I just don't think it's makes it into the A tier. As for the category rankings, this farm will be getting a 3 out of 5 in ease of building just due to the amount of lava in it and how annoying it is to clog your inventory with it. It will be getting a 4 out of 5 in terms of material cost. Everything to make the farm is farmable. And it will be getting a 6 out of 10 in terms of material output. It does output a lot still. Next we have the string duper, which finds itself in the B tier as well. It's really fast, really small, really easy to make, and it's so fast that it could actually replace a wool farm as well, which is why I don't even have that on the list. As for the rankings, I'd give it 5 ease to build, 5 material cost, and 5 for output, because wool is a nice block to have. Next up, we have the iron farm. Being as it is one of Minecraft's most iconic farms, as well as iron still being, to this day, one of the best resources in the game, it will be going straight up to the S tier. As for the rankings, it will be getting a 3 in ease of building due to needing to wrangle villagers. It will be getting a 4 in material cost because, again, it's a lot of blocks, but all of it's farmable. And for the output, it will be getting a 9 out of 10, as iron is pretty broken. Next, we have another valuable farm in the form of the gunpowder farm. It's a necessary resource for the elytra, which is, well, everybody's favorite form of travel, and yeah, I still think it's a bit overrated, though. I personally have it in the B tier. Granted, this is partially because my farm design is not the best. It's a mix of 2 farms. It manages to not get the speed of the faster design or the material cost of the slower design. Remember, kids, don't try to design your own farms unless you actually know what you're doing. Anyway, the ratings for this abomination are going to be 3 out of 5 material cost because I've still had to make a ton of trapdoors. 4 out of 5 ease of building because it's still, it's a lot of placing blocks, but it's not mentally taxing or anything. And 6 out of 5 in terms of output because gunpowder's still extremely necessary even if the rates aren't that good. Next, we have another one of the more controversial farms on the list, and that would be the bamboo farm. It's so broken that it deserves an entire new tier, and that would be the what was Mojang thinking tier. This farm is so busted, you could make it as long as you have slime and leaves, and you're set for wood forever. You don't need a wood farm anymore. Like, what is this? Ease of building, it's like a probably a 4 out of 10. Like, you have to do a little redstone, but it's not that bad. Material cost, you can literally get all of this in like a couple Minecraft days as long as you're lucky with slimes. And for output, it's our first 10 out of 10. It's enough wood forever, and wood's used in everything. Finally, we'll be taking a break from all these back-to-back must-have farms, and gonna go over the rail duper. It's a C-tier farm. It's fast. It's easy to build, but the output is kind of where it lacks. Rails aren't the most useful thing anymore. They're still nice to have, but also like it half of it you have to manually pick up, so I've taken a lot of points off of that. Give it a 5 in ease of building, 4 material cost because it does use slime, and 4 in output. Next we have the Guardian Farm. It's definitely one of the more difficult to make farms on this list so far, but I still think it's worth it for a decent Minecraft player just due to what it gives you, which is why I'm putting it in B tier. This design here is by ENXO4, and it's probably the easiest by a long shot to make. Don't mind the redstone stuff, that was me trying to make a storage system and failing miserably. It's a bit more expensive, requiring a lot of obsidian, and it's also a bit dangerous to make, so... But as well as providing you with prismarine drops, food, which I think this is technically the only food farm on this list, which is kind of funny, and normal, like, drops, this is also one of the faster XP farms out here, so this is the entry on this list as well for an XP farm. And while it is a bit tougher to make, it still does better than most Guardian farms. For the rankings, I will be giving it a 2 out of 5 in ease of building. It is annoying to make it with the Guardians trying to shoot at you all the time. It is going to be a 2.5 out of 5 for material cost, because it's still far and away not the most expensive farm out there. And I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10 in terms of drops, because it gives XP, prismarine, and fish as well. Fun fact, if you want to expand the farm, you can actually trap guardians up in the AFK spot to use it as a pseudo mob switch for placing more soul sand to make the farm bigger. Next up, we have the Shulker Shell farm. This is another must-have farm, and again, this is another farm that's a bit annoying to make, but I still think this is going into the you need this tier. Because Shulker shells are probably one of the most important resources in the game. Compact storage is so nice for building literally anything, to the point where it really doesn't matter how annoying it is to make the farm. You just have to. For the rankings, I will be giving this a material cost of 4 out of 10. It's a lot of blocks again, but nothing that's hard to get. An ease of building of 2.5, it's still annoying moving a shulker, and a output of 10 out of 10. It makes a lot of shells fast, and they're needed. Next we have Sugarcane, which is going to go straight to the C tier. It's somewhat expensive to farm, and it's only really used in firework rockets. Material cost is going to be a 3 out of 5. Ease of building is going to be 4.5 out of 5. It's pretty brain dead. And output's going to be 4 out of 10. Next on the list is going to be the gravity block duper. This farm is another one of the more advanced ones on the list, but I still think it's deserving of S tier, just due to the sheer amount of blocks it can generate. You can farm glass through sand, you can farm gravel, you can farm any type of concrete, and at the end of the day, the material cost for it isn't that bad. I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5 in building difficulty. I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5 on resource cost. It is a bit expensive in terms of slime and honey blocks, and I'd give it a 9 out of 10 in terms of output. It can farm like 10 different blocks. Next up, continuing on the trend of slightly higher risk, higher reward farms, is the raid farm. This, again, despite its difficulty, I do believe is an S tier. It provides emeralds for villager trades, which is broken in of itself, but it also out gunpowders my gunpowder farm, funnily enough, and also provides redstone. It's just so useful for so many things, and with this design, it's actually quite cheap to make and easier than you'd think. In terms of cost, I'd give this a 3.5 out of 5. A lot of this is actually a lava cast, making you not need actually that many blocks. For ease of building, I'd also give this a 3.5 out of 5. Moving villagers is a bit annoying, but again, like, the lava casts do half the work for you, and for output, this is another 10 out of 10. And with the froglight farm, we'll finally take a dive back to the lower tiers. C tier, to be precise. It's a okay farm. It farms froglights, which aren't the most useful block ever. They're decorative. And it also happens to farm magma, so that's nice, I guess. In terms of building it, it's not the most expensive thing ever. It's probably a 4 out of 10. It's also a 3 out of 10 in ease of making. You do have to wrangle frogs, and the output is a 4 out of 10. Magma's nice to have, but froglights are just decorative. And continuing on the theme of nether-based farms, the next farm we have is a wither skeleton farm, and not actually just a wither skeleton farm, but a Nether Fortress mob farm. This farm is by far the one that was the hardest for me to make. These dogs, moving them into position is an absolute pain with blazes shooting at you, and for that reason, I do have to give this a ease of building score of 0. I think I unfortunately had around 12 dogs die trying to build this. Still, its output is a 9 out of 10. It's produces bone meal, coal, blaze rods, wither skeleton skulls, pretty much you name it, and for building it, it's also relatively cheap at a 4 out of 5 cost. It's just, man, the one thing that's keeping it from S tier is how annoying it is to maneuver the dogs. Like, I probably spent upwards of 4 hours just trying to move dogs just to get this farm to work. Next farm on the list isn't really a farm, but it's just a nice piece of tech to have. It's a super smelter. I do think everybody should just have one of these. It's just convenient. For scores, I can't really rate the material cost of it just because you pretty much have to put in fuel. For ease of building, it's a 4 out of 5, and for output, it is a 9 out of 10. Next up, we've got probably the other most powerful farm in the game, being the villager breeder. Villagers are just a gateway to everything, which is why they're also going in what was Mojang thinking. This villager breeder is extremely simple. Cost is a 5 out of 5. Ease of building is a 4 out of 5, just due to needing to wrangle villagers, and output is a 15 out of 10. Villagers are silly. Also, I forgot to mention, this design comes with a rail, so you can introduce the newborn child to your unpaid labor force faster than ever. Up next is another farm that is a gateway to a lot of other things, and that would be a slime farm. This farm will be going into the B tier along with a lot of other, like, necessary things, but it's not immediately, so. I will say that my farm design specifically is way slower than what I need, although it does have a nice little AFK spot. In terms of cost, this is a 4 out of 5. In terms of ease of building, this is probably a 5 out of 5. In terms of output, this is a 6 out of 10. Next on the list, we have another farm that isn't exactly a farm. It's a concrete converter. It's, again, just very convenient to have, like, a designated place to convert concrete. This does also actually double as a good place to mine silk-touched ores. And as you can see, it's just a tunnel that you hold down both click buttons. In terms of ease of building, this is a 5 out of 5. In terms of cost, this is a 5 out of 5 as well. In terms of output, this is a 6.5 out of 10. It does tend to lose concrete because it flies through the walls sometimes, and also sometimes it breaks while you're doing it if your pickaxe is too fast. So yeah, it's okay. Next on the list, I'm gonna rank two farms at the same time, and that would be the gold farm as well as the piglin bartering farm. These farms are kind of tied together, as gold on its own isn't super useful anymore, unless you trade it with piglins, in which case you get access to their entire loot table. And that loot table is very useful. We got obsidian, quartz, string, soul sand, blackstones, nice building block, nether bricks, probably a bunch of other stuff I'm forgetting. Oh, soul speed book. I did kind of forget that existed. So for the gold farm, in terms of ease of building, this farm specifically is actually extremely easy to make. It's 4.5 out of 5 in terms of both cost and ease of building, as well as in terms of output, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. As for the piglin bartering farm, sadly I don't have footage of it right now. And for the bartering farm, I can't really give it a rating for cost just due to it consuming as much gold as you throw at it. But for ease of building, it's also 4.5 out of 5, and for output, it's a 10 out of 10. Next up, we have the honey farm, which is kind of just the poor man's slime farm, and for that reason, it's going to be the tier below in C tier. It's pretty cheap to make. I'd say that's a 4.5 out of 5. Moving the bees isn't hard with Silk Touch. It's a 5 out of 5 in terms of ease, but output-wise, it's a bit lacking. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. Second to last, but definitely least, we have the Sniffer farm. This is going to be our one and only inhabitant of the garbage tier. In fact, actually, I hate this farm so much that it doesn't even deserve to be on the tier list. Rebozo. This farm is just way more trouble than it's worth. Cost-wise, it's a 1 out of 5 because of the Sniffer egg. Building it's actually fine, it's 4 out of 5 in terms of ease. And drops-wise, it doesn't drop anything useful and it drops them slowly. It's a 1 out of 10. You may have been wondering what this last thing is down here, and unfortunately, it's not a true diamond farm, but a tunnel bore is the next best thing, and it will be making its place in the S tier. It is a bit expensive because you do need to use ancient debris, but you can make it as big or small as you want, and not many farms can claim that they can output every deep slate ore as well as deep slate itself. Cost is a 2 out of 5 due to the ancient debris. Ease of building is surprisingly easy. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5, and output is another 10 out of 10. So yeah, here's the final tier list. Again, this is all just my opinion of a very uneducated Minecraft player. Also, if you disagree with anything or know a better farm or an easier farm, feel free to comment it. If it helps, I'll try to make sure that it gets seen. And yeah, I'm learning too. But if you found this video helpful at all, please do subscribe. It only takes a couple seconds and I'm just getting started out here. Everything's appreciated. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.